Good morning, my name is Engineer Piyush Pandey. Welcome to today's session of motivational skills, and the topic for today's discussion is the 7 principles of crucial communication, the 7 C's. Ladies and gentlemen, the expert in communication field have divided the communication concepts in 7 parts to make the communication process highly effective. And these 7 parts are known as 7 C's of communication, C as in alphabetic letter C. These 7 C's are clarity, completeness, conciseness, consideration, correctness, concreteness, and courtesy. I would like to repeat the points: clarity, completeness, conciseness, consideration, correctness, concreteness, and courtesy. Now, what are these 7 principles? The first one is clarity. Clarity has 2 parts: clarity of thought and clarity of expression. Clarity of thought and clarity of expression. The clarity of thought means whatever you want to convey to the other person, first of all, it should be very much clear in your mind. Because if it is not very much clear to you, you won't be able to communicate it effectively to the other person. That's why it should be very much clear in your mind at the very first place. This is known as clarity of thought. Next is clarity of expression. How are you going to communicate the material to the other person? Here, the very first thing is the choice of language. The kind of language that you are using to convey your message. And here, the crucial point is the language that you are using, it should be very much understandable to the other person at the very first place. If the other person is not clear about the language that you are using for the communication, he will never understand your matter. That's why clarity of thought and clarity of expression. Whatever you want to convey, it should be very much clear in your mind at the very first place. And second, the communication medium, the language that you are using to communicate the material, it should be understandable to the receiver. Second point is completeness. Whatever information you want to convey to the other person, it should be very complete. Ladies and gentlemen, incomplete information will always give you incomplete results. And it is a proven fact in many industrial scenarios. You give incomplete information to the other person will start working on that incomplete communication, resulting in incomplete outcome for the industry, ultimately the financial loss for the industry. So if you are conveying something in an incomplete manner, the people will work on that incomplete thing and the results will always be incomplete. That's why whatever you want to communicate, it should be 100% complete. Always ensure that. Third point is conciseness. Conciseness means try to use short words and short sentences to explain your point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's corporate environment, in today's 24/7 work environment, people don't have time for lengthy messages or lengthy speeches in a spoken form. People want results immediately. People want every kind of effective communication on immediate basis. Whatever necessary communication you want to make inside the organization, it should be made quickly. That's what people desire. That's why conciseness is the most effective tool. Try to make your message short so that it doesn't waste time of people. This is very crucial. The fourth point is consideration. By consideration, we mean to say that to whomsoever you are conveying a particular information, you must consider that person in mind before sending the information. Try to consider what is the position of that person. Try to consider whether the person is able to receive that information or not. Try to consider whether the person is in the mode of receiving the information or not. Try to consider the recipient in mind before sending any information. This is known as consideration. If you are not considering the receiver in mind, you will keep sending illogical messages which will not be acceptable to the receiver, and the whole process of communication will go down. That's why always consider receiver in your mind before sending any kind of information in written form or the oral form. Next point is correctness. By correctness, we mean to say that the information that you are sending, it should be grammatically correct, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever language you are using to make that communication, the language should be grammatically correct. Because if the language is not grammatically correct at the very first place, the other person will never be able to understand what you are speaking or what you are writing. Because of grammatical incorrectness of language, the whole concept will go entirely non-understandable by the receiver, and it will degrade the process of communication. It will be a wastage of time for everyone. That's why make it very much sure that whatever you are communicating, it is grammatically correct. This is the very first requirement for any kind of communication. Grammatical correctness. You cannot ensure great results without grammatical correctness of the information that you are sending in the spoken form or the written form. Then comes concreteness. By concreteness, we mean to say that always use those words and expressions that are actually necessary to make a particular kind of communication. Don't use unnecessary words, unnecessary sentences that do not relate to the kind of material that you want to convey. The words and sentences that do not relate to the kind of material that you want to convey to the other person, those words, those sentences should never be used, because they will always confuse the receiver. And if the receiver is confused, again he will not be able to understand you, or he will act on your communication in a wrong manner, giving you wrong results at the end. This is what happens when you don't follow this rule. Be very much concrete, be very much vivid while conveying any kind of information to the receiver. If he is not able to understand your point of view, definitely he will act in a wrong way, and ultimately your organization will get wrong results. That's why this is also a very crucial part of communication process. And the last and the seventh part is courtesy. By courtesy, we mean to say always be polite while conveying any kind of information to the other person in written form or the oral form. Always be very polite. Always be polite while writing something like a business letter. Always be polite in any kind of speaking situation. Always be polite while writing mails to the other people. This is very much required, because if you don't follow the principle of politeness, people will never read your material, people will never listen to what you want to say. Before explaining anything to anyone in the spoken form or the written form, if respect is not there, the other person is not going to accept your material at the very first place. Whether the process of communication is complete or not, it is the secondary case. If at the very first place, because of your lack of politeness, the person is not willing to have any kind of conversation with you, because of lack of politeness, the person is not willing to have any contact with you, because of lack of politeness, the person is not willing to have any business relation with you, how can you ever start any kind of communication? The process of communication will never start, ladies and gentlemen. And if something is not starting, how can you think of getting good results out of it? It has not even started. And why it has not started? Because of lack of polite behavior that you have in your personality. If you are not polite to the other person, the communication process will never be accepted. The material that you want to convey to the other person, it will never be accepted. Business relations will go down, and every type of other friendly relations will always go down. It will lead to loss of relationship, loss of business values, and ultimately the loss of finance. That's why you must respect the person to whom you are communicating. So these are the 7 crucial principles that you must follow in order to make the communication effective, in order to impress the other person to whom you are communicating, and ultimately in order to develop good professional relationships. That's all for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you loved my today's video. Please subscribe my channel, Piyush Pandey, Trainer, B.Tech MBA, and please press the bell icon for constant updates. Thank you very much. Have a great day.